Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of The Downward Drive. Today, we're here with longtime YouTube legend, the Gamer from Mars. You know him, you've seen him. If you've been on YouTube any time in the last 10 years, you've probably seen one of his extremely enigmatic and well-designed thumbnails. So this is going to be the Gamer from Mars edition of The Downward Drive. I hope you enjoy it. Art, do you have anything to say to the people here starting off?
Start off? No, nothing much. You just told me to get into the car and we were going to drive around in a circle, you said. So.
Yeah, well, we are in the wonderful city of Tampa Bay during not just Creator Clash weekend, but Taylor Swift concert weekend. You know, we were talking about earlier, it was real smart of iDubbbz to schedule this event at the same time as the concert series for the most popular musician in the world right now.
Yeah, they literally could not have picked a worse weekend to do this. The Uber driver I had said this was the worst traffic he's ever seen in the city. So that's always a good sign.
You know, that's the power of intelligent design right there. You know, iDubbbz, he definitely did not get CTE from getting destroyed by Dr. Mike last year. He is sound of mind. He knows event planning. He's planning the ultimate boxing event this year. They had to upgrade arenas too, you know.
And apparently they didn't sell out.
Yeah.
Unlike Taylor Swift.
Unlike Taylor Swift, no. There's no question over the success of Taylor Swift. But Creator Clash right now, the ticket sale's not looking so hot, to be honest. It's one day before the event. We're recording this on Friday the 14th. The event is Saturday the 15th, and thus far, looking at the seating map today, there is really a lot still left. Well, anyway, we see all sorts of strange stuff here on the drive. I was recording the episode with Hugbees yesterday. We almost saw death, and there was very, very unusual circumstances all over the place. Not sure if it's just Florida. You, of course, are from the great state of Pennsylvania, and not just any city from Pennsylvania, a city many people know and love, even if they haven't been there. You're from the city of Scranton, Pennsylvania.
That is correct. Yeah,
home of Dunder Mifflin Company.
It's actually a real place.
It's a real place? I did not realize that. That's like finding out that Disney World actually has real magic.
That is true. I was surprised when I found that out.
So, is it like an actual registered company, or is it like an abandoned building?
So there's a company, I believe it's Scranton Paper Company, and they have this building that's kind of the base for where I don't know, they show it on the intro of the show, but Dunder Mifflin's a made-up name. But if you go into this Scranton Paper Company building, they just have Dunder Mifflin stuff, like they sell Dunder Mifflin branded paper in there.
So it's like an acquired thing, like after the show got popular, they started to cash in because they were the filming location.
So there's like this business solution where they sell like stuff for companies to go in and buy supplies for their business, and one of the things they sold, the main thing, was paper, and they went and kind of vaguely adapted that company into Dunder Mifflin, but it's very loosely based on it. Other than that one shot in the intro where they show like the top of the tower on the building, that's like the only reference to it.
You know, it's interesting that Dunder Mifflin and The Office is the most interesting draw to Scranton when our commander-in-chief, a great patriot, Joe Biden, can also call Scranton home.
Yeah, well, he left when he was 10, but he always goes around talking about Scranton values. And no one in Scranton knows what Scranton values are, but he always talks about them.
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot of corruption in Scranton and stuff. I don't...
Maybe those are the values.
Maybe. Like, that's what everyone in Scranton thinks, but I guess it's a good pitch to the general public that don't know. It just seems like small, old coal town, you know, work with your hands, salt of the earth type folk. And Joe Biden can relate to him.
Yes, I'm sure he's been in a coal mine before.
Yeah, I'm sure of it. Actually, he's old enough where the coal mines might have still been operational when he was a child. Now that I think about it, there was probably still a few coal mines around when he was born, but they've been long gone. I think the last one's closed down in the 50s, maybe. So there's not really much attachment. there's still a bunch of coal laying around all over the place.
They just left it?
Yeah, like there's areas there. I think they're called column dumps, and it's coal that you're not able to burn. So it just sits in piles in different places.
It's just going to be there forever.
Yeah, well, oftentimes people will flatten it out and then just build on top of it. But there's still coal laying about. There's chunks of coal, giant pieces, sitting in people's driveways and stuff. They kind of use it as, instead of rocks, they'll use coal to like make sure that people don't back into their yard. So yeah, interesting dynamic.
Yes, indeed. So, Gamer from Mars, let's get in to your YouTube career. You've been around on YouTube for probably as long as myself.
2009.
2009, so that predates me by a year. I remember the first video I saw of yours was the Lavender Town theory. But I believe you were making videos considerably before that, weren't you?
Lavender Town theory was 2 years in. So basically was just learning the ropes for those first 2 years, got no attention, and Lavender Town was kind of my breakout video that allowed me to get some attention and notoriety and figure out how to get people to watch my content. I think before Lavender Town I got like 500 subscribers in the first 2 years, and then after that it was just started getting thousands.
What were you doing primarily? Because Gamer from Mars, I assume that entails something video game related, and obviously your breakout hit was video game related. So what did the early Gamer from Mars content look like?
Sure. So my biggest, I had a lot of inspiration from the OG gaming YouTube reviewers. So the Angry Video Game Nerd, ScrewAttack.com with like Stuttering Craig, his countdown top 10 list in the Video Game Vault. My biggest inspiration was this guy named the Wii Viewer who reviewed Wii games with his two sons. Like, I was a massive fan of this guy, and he was probably my biggest influence. So I just started the channel and I was reviewing random games, whatever I felt like, doing some top 10 lists. Nothing super crazy, but I was just learning how to write scripts, present myself on camera, edit content. I just learned all of that from scratch. I just said one day I wanted to make YouTube videos, and I got a Dazzle capture card that came with Pinnacle Studios.
Dazzle. Oh, dude, yesterday I was talking to Hugbees, and we had a whole talk about the Hopodge HD PVR. And I said, like, that name brings me back. Like, I only associate that name with, like, the time of, like, 2010, 2011. And you mentioned the Dazzle.
Dazzle's older.
The Dazzle's, like, the even further back predecessor of the Hopodge.
The Hopodge was, like, if you were a baller and you wanted HD.
Yeah.
Because the Dazzle was just the composite cables, I think they're called.
Can you like still buy them new anymore, or have they all been used?
I don't know. I still have mine. It's inboxed to this very day.
I could see a scenario where, like, just as like the VHS aesthetic has been like a big thing in the past 6 years or so, I could see the 2009 like AVGN Nostalgia Critic 4:3 aspect ratio 480p Dazzle capture card quality aesthetic potentially coming back in the next 10 years or so. So who knows?
I've always thought that there's a unique aesthetic to the early That Guy with the Glasses group, the Channel Awesome people back in 2009. All of their content, they sat behind a generic wall. They talked to the camera in a very mundane way. Not mundane, I don't know if that's the right word, but they were it wasn't natural, it was very theatrical, any emotion that they showed. And they all had this like really ugly yellowish hue to their videos. All of them.
The good old yellow plain wall.
And they all shot in 720p resolution. And they all dressed the same. It was this weird like millennial nerdy group.
You're in a suit, but it doesn't really fit well.
Yeah, like none of their clothing fit well. They all had beards. Their like hair and stuff wasn't well kept. The women were all like not super attractive, but not like super ugly either. They're like homely, very homely. They tried to have style, but it wasn't like very flattering to them.
It was like barely stepping their toe into like a professional look, but not really willing to go through the expense. Which at the time it's understandable. No one was really getting paid hardly anything for online content creation. So
yeah, you upload your videos to blip.tv, you get your
Blip TV.
You make a review aggregate website using WordPress. And then you just upload your embedded blip.tv links there, and you have like a community of a bunch of other people doing it.
Bro, Doug Walker has Rotten Tomatoes critic credentials.
That's wow.
His reviews contribute to the Rotten Tomatoes score for movies.
Interesting. I know Chris Stuckman was like the first YouTuber to get that. When did he get his?
I don't know. I never kept track of when YouTubers have actually been admitted to the Rotten Tomatoes review aggregate. But interesting food for thought. So a lot of inspiration from the original sort of, I'm going to play a theatrical character while reviewing this video game, that era of YouTube, basically.
Yeah, I've thought about doing a parody video of it, but not even a parody. You just straight up rip it off and like make a new video of that style. It's one of a million ideas, and I know that won't get any views, so it's just on the back burner probably forever. Someone will do it before me. But yeah, just nailing down that style. I don't know, getting one of those old, like one of those Canon camcorders I actually held, like the old school style. They actually have like a half decent microphone on them most of the time, built in. And that's what most of those people use. 720p resolution.
Natural, like, bedroom lighting.
Yeah, and like, maybe if you were lucky, they got some light at Home Depot to shine on them.
A completely unnecessary sketch comedy.
Well, this is the funniest thing with all of these people is the least entertaining part of all their stuff were the skits, but they all just insisted on doing them because they're all like failed actors and failed sketch comedians.
Oh no.
So they like try to write these sketches and that no one cares about. They just want to see the review of the movie. And then I remember even back then I wanted to fast forward whenever there was like a super drawn out like little sketch thrown in there that had nothing to do with the plot of the movie.
Well, it's interesting you say that, because one thing I remember from the early Gamer from Mars video, you had some kind of like serialized story, like some
that was early Internet Mysteries.
Yeah, you started Internet Mysteries and
2016 era,
and you tried to write in these little vignettes where it would be like a continuing story where you'd be following some kind of real life mystery.
Yeah, I gave up on that at some point because I looked at I started looking at my stats at some point and the audience retention rates, and I realized most people were not watching those skits, and they took a lot of work for me to make them. And then I was running low on time because I'm just doing 10 things at once, running different businesses. And I just realized that if I cut these out, the video gets the same amount of views. So they were fun. I want to do more of that stuff. It's just a matter of where do I delegate my hours in the day. And that was on the cutting block at some point.
Yeah, eventually you're going to have to make Gamer from Mars the movie.
It's not going to be Gamer from Mars the movie, but I definitely would be interested at some point making a film. I do have some connections now where I could probably make it if I put my effort there. But again, it's just not enough hours in the day to do all the things that I have in my brain.
Well, let's get back to the topic of Internet Mysteries. So I think that serves as a kind of conducive transition point, because your breakout video was the Lavender Town mystery.
Yes.
And that is when you sort of saw the value in talking about kind of more just narrational, story-driven content where you kind of summarize an event and kind of discuss these unusual, disturbing, possibly even morbid events that have taken place, not just even in video games, but on the internet in general.
Well, that's an interesting point. Internet Mysteries has the same exact format of Lavender Town. Like, I made Lavender Town 10 years ago. I'm still using that format to make videos to this very day. It's been refined and tweaked a bit over the years, but if you go back and watch that, I basically took those first 2 years of YouTube and everything I learned, all the tutorials I watched, all these filmmaking channels I was like looking at, and just morphed it all together because I found this Lavender Town theory about all these weird things that were going on with Pokemon. And I remember releasing it, and it was one of those eureka moments where all the comments were like, dude, this is really good. Like, I usually would get 3 or 4 comments on a video, maybe 5. And that one, I remember, even immediately, I got like 20 from my subscriber base of a couple hundred people. And they all said, this was amazing. I remember like showing it to my dad when I released it, and he's like, "This is a really good video."
That's interesting, yeah.
And then I posted it on Reddit, and then the next day I gained like 50 subscribers in one day, and that was like I would
That was a big deal at the
I would
time.
get 1 subscriber a day up until that point, and then I was jumped immediately to 50 and overnight, and I wake up and I'm like doing cartwheels around the house and stuff. It was incredible, and then I just started making more of those. I think what set me apart from a lot of the other gaming urban legend channels is that even back then, I liked the stories that were based on something in reality. A lot of the other ones, they went over into like the creepypasta section.
Like
Ben Drowned.
L is Real.
Yeah, L is Real. Well, L is Real was actually based in the game, to be fair. I like those stories where you could tie it back to this might be real, whereas I got all these comments and I became resentful of it at some point where they'd say, "Hey, can you cover Herobrine in a video?" And I'm like, "It's not real." And they're like, "Yeah, but I don't care. Like, I want you to cover it, like, because I'm scared." And I just had a bunch of 10-year-olds that wanted me to cover creepypasta stuff.
But yeah, that's an interesting distinction.
Yes.
Because I remember at about that time, this was 2011, 2012 or so.
Yeah.
Creepypasta and just creepypasta readings, that was starting to take off. But there's sort of a delineation you made where you're covering factual information with like sources.
There might be something true to it. Let's deep dive into again, like looking back now, my research was very not the best probably. I mean, it was all right. Like Lavender Town I did a lot of research into, but I don't do the digging that I could often do now. But like back then, that was what I was doing was, no one else really did that before.
Yeah, you could call it, you produced some of the first like proto video essays, which is now like a huge genre. I basically am part of that genre now.
I guess so.
But I mean, guys like Nerdwriter, they're like often attributed as the progenitor because they have like, I guess, the smooth, buttery editing and like the Vox soft-spoken NPR presentation style. But in terms of actually like presenting like a researched essay that like would previously be published as some kind of article, but turning it into a YouTube video with like a good amount of decently paced visuals, you were probably among the first to actually do that.
Yeah, I pushed Pinnacle Studios to the limits of what it was able to do, like having pan-ins and pan-outs of it's crazy. This is the first time in any of my videos where I did I needed to show pictures. And I basically did the Ken Burns style thing because I watched those documentaries as a kid where you pan in on a picture, then you pan out on a picture, and you just show visuals of what you're talking about. That was the first time I ever did that. But it all just like went into my head of like, okay, I'm going to lay it out this way. It really was the culmination of those first 2 years of me just like absorbing myself into everything, that I took all of those skills and put it into that, and it was just lightning in a bottle moment where it worked and everyone acknowledged that it worked, and I completely changed how I made content from that point onward because of how that was presented. Even before that, I showed like more personality in videos and like try to give my opinions. That was the first video where I tried to take more of like the like journalist.
You took on the role. You took on the role as like the impartial neutral
reporter.
presenter.
Yeah, not a journalist per se, but like with no emotion. Like I'm going to be super serious about it because it's like really spooky. Like this is like, you know, maybe people died.
Yes, interesting. And I'd say that's a style. The neutral presenter. That is a style that has since become heavily associated with yourself. You are someone who is not known to be opinionated in your videos, deliberate on kind of what the audience is supposed to think coming out of the video. You are a guy who has since been known to like very clearly stick to the facts of a case and just really like pretty dryly present like, this is the information that's out here, all condensed, consolidated for you, the audience, and you can form your own judgment about that.
Yeah, and it's interesting because for a while there I was making the What Happened To videos and the Dead Channel videos where I did interject more opinion into them, but it wasn't even opinion, it was more of me playing the devil's advocate. Like a lot of the time I'd argue a point that I didn't even believe in just because I wanted to be a contrarian. I thought it would be like an interesting point. I always made it clear that that was the case, but people didn't care. They still got mad at me. So in recent times, I've learned that the path of least resistance is just going by the facts. Don't rock the boat. Don't piss anyone off.
Right.
But I do want to get back into maybe, actually full out giving my opinion into some videos, doing something along those lines, just because I do have things to say. I think I'm able to articulate myself pretty well.
Well, you know, that's what pretty much every video on the Downward Diary is. That's not the Downward Drive. Yeah. It's a good outlet. I mean, it's satisfying to make your opinions known about something and see if people agree with you. But I think it's interesting and kind of impressive your level of professionalism you've maintained over the years, because it's difficult to do, especially as like YouTubers, like non-professionally trained YouTubers. It's easy. I mean, you are obviously fixated with like Gamergate. You tell me about how you love researching that time period.
Yeah, it's very interesting.
It's interesting specifically to look at how it's easy for creators who start off as impartial to kind of get sucked in to this agenda-driven content, really catering to one side or the other of the political aisle, and you can form long, successful, lucrative careers doing that, and it's awfully tempting, I think, for a lot of people. But
it often the problem is other times they'll sabotage their career by getting into politics and stating their opinion. That happened a lot during Gamergate, but I think the biggest example would be during 2016, where there was like these YouTubers that just said, I have to support Hillary Clinton. Like they feel like God has like told them that they have to get involved in politics because, you know, I usually don't get involved, but this time I have to. Dude, it's like, no, you didn't.
That Casey Neistat video is like one of my all-time favorite sound bites on YouTube.
Hillary Clinton.
I will be voting for Hillary Clinton.
But he was the one that got the brunt of it, but there was a lot of YouTubers in 2016 that came forward and pulled the same stunt as him.
I remember there's that, one of the ones that was like a pariah was that Jello apocalypse video.
Oh, I forgot about that. Is that...
He's saying, vote, 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 vote because these fascists are trying to kill you. And it's like, Jesus Christ, dude. I mean, I'm fine with people giving out a message they find politically meaningful, but there is a certain whiplash when you're a type of person who makes like little interesting, whimsical Tumblr animations or whatever. I think that's what Jello Apocalypse did.
Is he still around?
I don't know. I haven't heard anything from him in years. That was probably the last I've heard of him.
That might have been the last time he uploaded.
Vote, 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 vote. But I guess that'll be an interesting segue into how you started specializing specifically in little interest pieces about kind of the eccentric and the bizarre people of YouTube, people of the internet personalities. And that is one of the content formats that it seems like you're most known for now.
Yeah, when people ask me what kind of videos I make now, I just describe it as I talk about dysfunctional people. I talk about
dysfunctional.
I talk about dysfunction on my channel. Mm-hmm. That's really what ties all of my content together at this point. Because if you look at my channel and what I cover, it's all over the place. It really is like a smorgasbord, but it all works. I can't articulate it the best of like this is what my audience wants, but I know it in the back of my head, where I'll see a video topic and I'll say, my subscribers are going to want to watch that. Mm-hmm. Even if it has nothing to do with anything that I've covered before. It's just the title and thumbnail, and it all comes together at the end of the day. And it usually works out. It's given me a lot of wiggle room, where I have an idea list of, I think, 500 things I could cover on my channel.
Wow.
It's really long at this point.
I have a list of topics, but it's nowhere near that long. I mean, it takes me way longer.
To be fair, they're not all winners at any given point. I think they're all good topics for videos, but sometimes I see it and I don't have a good title and thumbnail, so it goes on the back burner because I can't figure out a way to market it.
Sometimes it's hard to like get enough juice in the video to make it like long enough to make the presentation stable enough.
Yeah, oftentimes my writer like I'll have a writer that they have their own channels and they'll write a video and make it for their account because I basically told them I don't know, have a way to market it on my channel. Like, my audience will not watch it. Like, even if it's a really good story or a really good video, I know my audience will not click on it. And I think that's where a lot of YouTubers fail, is they can't accept that and then they just make it anyway, which it's fine every once in a while to make a video just because you want to make it. But if you go down the downward spiral of just making content that you want without caring if your audience wants to watch it, that's where people
Yeah, I mean, eventually
they get
people
dead channels.
tune in. I've always said that YouTube is a supply side economy where people will just invariably watch the content that is supplied. Meaning, if you just you have the liberty as a creator to decide what you want to make, contrary to what a lot of people first getting into YouTube believe or are led to believe, because it seems like you just have to follow popular trends. This is the strategy a lot of people adopt when they're just novices at content creation. But in my experience, and probably yours as well,
it's terrible advice.
You supply the content, and people will whoever is interested in seeing it will tune in.
Yeah, I've always seen this from these YouTube gurus that like they'll charge people $7,000 to like have them help them grow their channel or some nonsense. One of these guys charged. I've met a guy that paid $7,000 to one of these gurus to help him grow his account. It's ridiculous, but they always say like, oh yeah, man, just follow the trends. If this new Star Wars movie's coming out, you make a video about Star Wars. And I disagree with that completely. That's like the worst time to make a Star Wars video because everyone else is making them at the same time and it's oversaturated. I'll go, and when a story's hot, I'll just set a reminder on my phone, talk about this in a year. I'll set a reminder on my phone to make a video about it 1 year from now.
Oh yeah, I remember in the past year you tweeted that about the little...
cop,
the female officer who got a little frisk. She had a little fun at the department this past year.
Yeah, for those videos, I don't like covering them right when they come out because the story's not finished yet. I like sit back, let everyone else cover in the moment. They could spam out 10 videos talking about every little update. I'm not a fan of that kind of content. I'll come in a year later and then just give a retrospective of it.
That's a good point with not being like a super duper hot button news channel. It's difficult to actually relay nuanced information because right in the moment when a story breaks, there's limited information. There's stuff that can subject to change. The outcome is not determined. So basically, you're just going to upload a video, cover a few basic facts, and the rest is just going to be up to kind of conjecture. Where I've seen great success, for example, in my Leafy video, where people were making videos about the downfall of Leafy all throughout 2017, and I waited till the middle of 2018, and the audience for that those types of videos were still there, but the content had dried up. So that allowed my video to come in and kind of soak up all the attention and impressions from everyone involved with that.
And your video's evergreen, whereas all those other ones, they get no views anymore because it's an incomplete story. It's just in the moment coverage.
Like in the future, people will like look at my videos next to the other ones, and they'll see mine as a complete product, whereas they're watching the other ones is like only watching season 1 of a TV show.
Yeah, and also I don't like. Do you know about the blue ocean strategy? Like Nintendo's most famous for it, where Nintendo doesn't think that they don't have competition. They just do their own thing. They don't see themselves fighting against Sony or Microsoft in the game console war. They're just making their own product because you know what? People want Mario. People want Zelda. Like they don't need to fight with anyone. And as long as their audience is happy, that's all that matters. And I like kind of not fighting against a ton of people in terms of getting videos out fast. Like for that, like going to that story about the cop, like I wait also because I don't want to be in this rat race of, I got to get a video out. I got to work late, till 1 o'clock in the morning because there's a new update to the story.
And then the quality starts to suffer.
I got to beat Charlie and these are like Mudahar to like cover some story in the space. No, I cover it after the fact. I'm not competing with those people. It's just I make it whenever I feel like. And even if someone else does a retrospective, I just give a different title and thumbnail than them. So I'm not even competing against them because I have a unique way of branding my content.
That's right.
It's a lot better, like mental health wise, I think too, to do it that way.
Oh, of course, yeah. To actually be in control of your own schedule, that's a huge deal. I feel like people who gravitate more towards topical events, they're kind of at mercy of just really trying to be on the treadmill to making sure they get their video out first, or they get the most exposure while the topic's still hot. It's like a misconception that is necessary or required for sustained success on YouTube.
It's easier to grow quickly that way, but those people burn out the fastest too.
Right.
So I've seen so many of those current event channels where they'll blow me up. Like, they make content for 6 months, and they get more subscribers than I've gotten in 13, 14 years of making videos.
Yeah.
Earlier on, years ago, I used to like almost have some jealousy towards that, but now I just see those people and I realize, I wish them the best. Hopefully they're able to succeed, but in the back of my head, I know most likely they're going to burn out, and in 2 years they're not going to be around anymore, and I'll still be here.
Yeah.
Because I've figured out a way of making content that's sustainable for me.
And
even if I'm never going to be the biggest YouTuber ever, sometimes it's better to kind of be in third or second place, because you get less scrutiny too, which is also convenient, and I still make more than enough money to sustain my lifestyle, so it's all good.
So thinking back to your career, another series of yours that stuck out to me when I remember kind of the old days of what drew me into the GamerFromMars channel originally was your Tales from 4chan series.
Like the top 10 4chan pranks?
Yeah, the top 10 4chan. I guess that was Bren Daniel, right?
Yeah, he just did readings of 4chan stories.
Oh yeah. Okay, my mistake. It was
that's actually, so there's like 2 turning points on my channel, I feel, that like were really my 2 big breaks. I mean, maybe you could like factor in like Basherverse, Conspiracy, and the Chris Chan, like the big documentaries, as like a third type. But the 2 ones that like I think are the biggest shifts for my channel content were the Lavender Town Theory, and then a couple of years past, 2015 rolls around. This was like right before internet culture topics on YouTube were a thing. Like, it's crazy to think, before 2015, people did not make videos talking about the internet. They were on the internet, but they were talking about things off the internet. At that point, there was developing internet culture to the point where YouTubers said, hey, I could talk about YouTube and 4chan and Twitter in and of itself.
I remember talking about this on my episode with Wavy, where there's a period where the internet happenings and like YouTubers were not considered relevant or important enough to be worthy of discussion. But then sometime around 2014, 2015, 2016, like YouTube drama started actually becoming like a real tangible thing that like millions of people would start tuning into and like getting in the know. Yeah,
there was little rumblings of it in 2014, but I really think 2015 is where it really exploded. Drama Alert, that's when it really blew up. And my claim to fame for it and how I switched from gaming to just internet culture, and now I've switched to just kind of general dysfunction stuff, even if it doesn't have anything to do with the internet. Well, the thing is just the internet is everything now. Like, all stories revolve around the internet to some degree or the other. So it's all internet culture in one way. But in 2015, I just remember I had gone on 4chan throughout the years, and I was always looking at these funny things that were like 4chan had done in the past, where they were trolling people, going on Habbo Hotel, pools closed. Speaking of Taylor Swift, they send Taylor Swift, make a school for the deaf win a contest for a concert, stuff like that. I'm like, this stuff's great, and then I see no YouTuber has covered it before.
Wow.
So I was like, okay, let me do a top 10 list about 4chan pranks, and I cover them. And I kid you not, I was the first YouTuber to make a video about 4chan.
It's bizarre to imagine that it wasn't covered at some point.
No one, and I'm not exaggerating here when I say this, I was the #1 search result when you search 4chan on YouTube.
Wow.
No one else had made a video about 4chan before, like in any great extent. There might have been like one, like, I don't know.
People from 4chan would make like inside jokes and stuff.
Yeah, but they weren't on YouTube, or like if it was just kind of like a minute-long, like anonymous video.
Yeah.
With like maybe some meme text on it, text to speech, and there might have been like a dig video or like a know your meme video on some 4chan thing, but it really was nothing. And I just came up with this concept of, this is good, let me take these weird 4chan stories and then make them into a consumable video format, basically exactly what I did for Lavender Town Theory a couple years prior, and I released it, and it was the same response. At that point, I was at like 30,000 subscribers. I was making a couple $100 a month. Like, it was a good part-time job for a teenager. Maybe at that point I was 20? I forget. Everything blends together. But yeah, I release it, and all of my subscribers who watch me for gaming content, I put this up, and they all say, this is amazing. These stories are hilarious. I've never even heard of 4chan before. You should make more of these. And then at that point, over the next 6 months, I released a gaming video, and then I released a 4chan video. And the gaming video would get 15,000, 20,000 views, and then the 4chan video would get like hundreds of thousands of views. And
yeah, I definitely remember that was something I would specifically tune into.
yeah, so at that point I switched completely, and I had all these people. It became a meme of, where's the gaming videos? Why are you called the Gamer from Mars when you don't talk about games?
It's funny.
And it's like, listen, you guys weren't watching the gaming videos. Of course I switched.
I mean, you're supplying the contents that's demanded.
Yeah, and then
by the viewer, that's justified by the view counts.
I find it so funny when people accuse a YouTuber for being a sellout because they pivot. Like, if you do not pivot, you fail. Like, I remember there was other YouTubers at the time that had, like, I kind of talked to a little bit, and I saw them trash me on Twitter, like, oh, like, he's kind of, he doesn't make gaming videos anymore, screw him. And, like, I look at their channels now, they don't upload, or if they do, occasionally they get 1,000 views. It's like, it was sink or swim. If I just kept on making the gaming content, I would still be at 30,000 views a video.
It's healthy on YouTube to have a slow progression and reinvention of your content.
Yeah, it's the way to do it.
If you want to be around in 10 years, it's kind of a necessity.
There's very few channels besides Red Letter Media, Game Donkey. There's a couple people that could kind of make the same content for multiple years if they have a super dedicated fan base.
Yeah, but that's because they're probably the most talented at making those types of videos.
Yeah, but I mean, even now, I'll watch them occasionally, but at the same time, they're kind of stale to me. Like, it might just be my mindset has changed. I don't watch a lot of YouTube anymore. I just listen to it in the background, and those are very visual types of content. So that might be the issue. That's the other thing with my content is I did a poll once. Most of my audience doesn't even watch it. They just listen to it in the background.
Yeah, I think that's a lot of YouTube content now. People listening on the go. Instead of recording podcasts in their car, they just listen to some YouTuber talk about stuff. I know I get comments all the time, and my videos are meant to like be both listened to and watched. I don't really care if you do either. But yeah, that's definitely a new market that also kind of didn't really exist back in the day. Like, who was listening to YouTube videos on Bluetooth in their car in like 2014?
Well, they weren't listening to a Bluetooth in their car, but I think during the Gamergate era, you had like the Internet Historian, Mr. Medicare, and Sargon.
Internet Aristocrat.
Oh, so yeah, Internet Aristocrat. Yeah. My bad. Sargon, Tildeer, Shoe on Head. A lot of them came out where they're just kind of talking heads.
Oh yeah, you used to be able to just like upload like a still image of like your avatar or whatever and just talk over it.
That's actually, there's some YouTubers bringing that back. Too Lazy to Try. He covers like podcast drama. He does that format still.
Yeah.
And he gets good views now. He's growing.
Yeah. But back then it's because I guess the bar was set lower for what was acceptable as a YouTube video. But now it's because like way more people just listen to content and not watch.
Well, back when I started, the bar was set at, if you got a Pinnacle Studios copy with your Dazzle, like just recording with a capture card device instead of recording your TV screen, that brought you in the top like 1% of YouTubers in the space. Most people just film their, hey guys, I'm reviewing this game, then they just have like a camera pointed at their screen and then they just played it, but saying, this game's kind of good.
Yeah, like,
and that was most content.
Isn't that how like Wings of Redemption was originally? It was like a TV screen recorder?
That was DSP. I don't know if Wings
DSP?
did that. I know Wings of Redemption might have been one of the first people to get a capture card and like do half decent content, but DSP, I remember, he like stuck to his guns about recording his TV screen for like a long time after everyone else realized, hey, you got to upgrade. And yeah, both of those two, they were kind of the OG Let's Players.
So let's go back to those comments you made about where you were feeling the heat from people. You were feeling the heat from people complaining. I remember a specific period in 2017 where you were getting dragged online, and it was not even necessarily clear why. Turkey Tom made a video about you, Quentin Reviews made a video about you, and they were all like these pretty harshly critical videos, just like slamming you and like what you do. Yeah,
that was like the lowest point in my life right there, and like that wasn't even like them trashing me. That was just icing on the cake of it, but I was just like depressed. I was like at my heaviest I ever was at. I just didn't feel good. The apocalypse just hit and that wiped out most of my YouTube ad revenue. I was just like, I put all of my life into my YouTube channel. Like I didn't have a teenage years like most teenagers. I just sat in my basement most of the time making my content.
Yeah.
And then I was seeing this slip away, and then people are trashing me on top of it. Yeah, it was a rough point there.
Yeah, that at that same period, that was where instead of getting depressed, I got extremely enraged and like inflicted my anger on behind the meme.
I was enraged too behind the scenes, but like, who was I going to be frustrated at? Like YouTube? It's like it just did me no good. But that's the kind of the point where I had to crawl myself out of that one.
Yeah, that's interesting. A lot of YouTubers, they eventually wind up with this gut check moment where the numbers aren't looking good. You're starting to have a lot of doubt over your ability to do something, and a lot of people leave. That's too much to handle. But it's nice to see you stuck it through, and now you've since gone on to be even more successful than you probably even could have imagined back then. That's
the interesting aspect of it. The "what doesn't kill you makes you stronger" statement. It was 100% true for me because, I was fat. I remember Turkey Tom called me fat in his video. I looked in myself in the mirror. I didn't like the way I looked. I started going to the gym every day, counting calories. I just, now I'm, probably in the top 1 or 2 percentile in terms of fitness.
Yes.
Of people. That was just 5 years of me obsessively going to the gym after getting that criticism. With the adpocalypse screwing me over in terms of viewership, in terms of payment, I started striving to get sponsorships for my videos. And because all the companies that were doing it weren't good, me and my brother started up an advertising agency to get YouTubers sponsorships, and now we have 16 employees. And that was a direct result of that low point in my life. I just kept on, I listened to the criticism of my type of content, and I kept on trying to improve it, refine it. I still get consistent viewership on it. Still not the biggest YouTuber ever, but I think a lot of that has
Everyone knows you, though.
Everyone knows
has
me.
Watched at least one Gamer from Mars video.
But I've stuck around, and I kept on making the content, and I still get solid, average 200,000 views a video at this point after all these years. So yeah, it was one of those things where I came out ahead at the end of the day, but that was a rough patch. I think most people wouldn't, not to give myself an ego boost, but I don't think people say oh, YouTube's easy, you just sit there and make videos, you got so easy. And honestly, I don't think most people would have been able to make it through what I made it through there. I didn't wallow in my pity. I just crawled my way out of the ditch I was in.
Right, yeah.
To an extreme extent.
It's extremely difficult and disheartening to be aware that you are being mocked online. That's it's a hump that people who are not cut out for YouTube, they will never be able to get over that. It's natural. No one wants to be ridiculed and ostracized by their peers.
And also, it's one thing to be mocked because you're like Mr. Beast. He gets criticized now, but he's so popular. It's and then they're criticizing.
It's just contrarianism.
Yeah,
right?
This guy cured blindness. Somehow this is a bad thing. I felt like they were kicking me while I was down too. I'm not angry about it. It's it's fine. But at the time, I was already at my lowest point. Then people were just mocking me.
Yeah, that was. It's
fat Mark Zuckerberg. Oh, he's a robot. Oh, his content sucks. I hate this guy. People genuinely said they didn't like my content, so they hated me as a human being for no reason.
Yeah, that was because you really had not done anything.
Nothing.
You had no drama, no conflicts.
No, I never fought with
anyone.
People.
It's you were just.
They just didn't like my content, so they hated me as a human being. It was so bizarre.
You were just an established channel at that point that people knew that had reached kind of a lull in their success. So at that point, people are quick to often use as justification to say oh, he's falling off, he sucks. Turkey Tom, ironically, was one of the videos, and you and Tom work together frequently now. So I'm sure that's something that's referenced to show how far you've come.
So we just booked him a sponsored message this morning. I'm good friends with Tom. Again, he was 14 years old when he made it. I remember when he made that video, why I hate the Gamer from Mars. I reached out to him after. I'm listen, the complaints. Some of the complaints were just him being outrageous, but I pointed out some of the things you're noticing about my YouTube channel of how the content's gotten worse in your opinion. That's because the adpocalypse hit, and I couldn't talk about certain subjects anymore because it was wiping out my ad revenue. So I had to kind of nerf my videos for the time being and figure out how to weather this storm that, because at the time, no one knew what the adpocalypse was. People were getting demonetized, but there was no yellow dollar sign system. You'd upload a video and it wouldn't get money. You
Yeah.
would not make money off it. There was no way to fight it. There was no way to officially state it was happening. I had no contacts at YouTube. So I just released a video, put like 2 weeks of work into it, and then I wouldn't make money off for 2 weeks. So then I just had to say like, okay, what am I doing? And I just had to restructure my content.
It was a big panic period.
It was a really bad panic because it's not like YouTube was out saying, hey guys, we're working on this. Keep it up. We got your back. Like, I didn't know if the money was ever coming back.
It took years.
It took years.
It took years until it was an actual stable, reliable system that you could say, okay, I can get away with this, and I can't do that with like a degree of confidence.
Yeah, so at that point, I was 7 years into YouTube, put all of my life into growing this YouTube channel. Like, who cares about friends, relationships, all that stuff? Just YouTube. And that was an unhealthy mindset, and that event, the apocalypse kind of snapped me out of it to a certain extent of, oh, like, I should care about other things. So that was kind of good in a way, but yeah, it was a brutal time. Mentally, it was just every single day I woke up and I was miserable. And it wasn't like one day there was a eureka moment. It was just years of me coming to terms with what happened, going to the gym, getting in better and better shape, learning eating protein, losing weight, calorie counting.
You're
building more and more muscle, like on that side of it, just getting better social skills, getting out of my comfort zone, talking to people, going to like VidCon in 2019, like going to meet Chris Chan to do a documentary there, doing the Basherverse documentary, like, you know, just collaborating with people, starting the business. Like, that was a triggering point that brought me to the lowest in my life, but it realized all of my shortcomings as a human being, and I just went, it's just how my brain works, I just went like psycho mode or something along those lines to obsessively improve myself.
Yes.
And I wasn't going to be happy until I'm at where I'm at now. I'm pretty happy where I'm at.
Your fitness journey was awfully compelling to a lot of people. You posted a tweet last year showing your body transformation that went a little viral, and it engaged with a lot of people. I'd obviously been meeting up with you several times in the meantime, and I've been like seeing the progression you've been going on to like shedding all that weight and having like getting like this very nice figure, and a lot of people had not. They still saw you as the fat Mark Zuckerberg. So when you posted that, people were like, holy smokes, like this guy really turned it around, you know?
And it's so bizarre because as it was happening, it's such a slow progression. Again, it's not overnight, these transformations of, oh, I got jacked in 6 months. That's not how it works. That was 5 years, and I have like good genetics for it too. And it took me 4 years to get to that point. And it's just one day, like, I take my shirt off at the gym in the mirror and I'm like, shoot, like, I see a six pack. Yeah, like at some point, just every 6 months, that fat Mark Zuckerberg meme was spread around of me from 2017 when I was at my lowest. That was probably the biggest thing. That was probably worse than even like the videos mocking me, was that fat Mark Zuckerberg meme, because I looked terrible. I was at my worst there. And then as I'm trying to improve, people would just send me that meme. Haha, look what I just saw on my Instagram feed. And every 6 months it would just blow up again. Some Reddit account would post it, get on the front page of Reddit, over again.
It's just in the rotation of these gimmick accounts on like Twitter and such.
Yeah, it's on the rotation of all those meme pages, and eventually I just got sick of it. It happened again last year, and I was like, I'll post a shirtless gym selfie.
Enough is enough.
Enough is enough. That's where I was at with it. Yeah, and then I released that. I got like over 100,000 likes, and it is bizarre.
People know to fear you now.
I don't know if they have to fear me, but I don't think that anyone could question my dedication.
Well, we have wound up at the airport somehow.
Interesting.
Got to see how to get it. We're really hitting all the major landmarks of Tampa here.
Should have a podcast on a plane.
Oh, maybe. Yeah. If I'm ever taking a flight with a YouTuber or something. I guess this is a good segue to talk about, I guess you brought it up earlier, but you are a modern day Don Draper. You are an ad man in the advertising industry. It's
so interesting. I don't know if I ever told you this, but I was, as a teenager, obsessed with Mad Men. Like, I just looked up to Donald Draper. He was my literally me character as a teenager.
And you became
yes.
him?
Yeah, like
incredibly.
and now I run an advertising agency, and I'm just in that realm, and I don't know. I kind of want to make a video about that at some point, because Mad Men's still my favorite show of all time. I have not watched it since it went off the air. I really just have no time to watch TV or play video games anymore. But maybe at like the 10-year anniversary of the end of the show, I'll like rewatch it and make a video about, how it inspired me, and like, how my thoughts of it now have changed versus when I watched it as a teenager, because I think I completely missed the point, especially when I was like 15, because I just saw like Donald Draper as this cool guy, wearing really nice suits, like has a nice corner office, everyone loves him, but kind of mysterious.
Mm-hmm.
And now, like looking back, or as the series went on, I think I even came to the realization that, he's a really unhappy, messed up individual.
But it's remarkable that you wound up in the advertising industry on YouTube, very much similar to what Don Draper does, but also
The modern
completely different. Like the game is completely different for marketing on YouTube. But I find it very interesting how you took that path. At what point did you decide you wanted to do it, or did you always have sort of a feeling that you wanted to kind of be? So what I should clarify, what you do specifically is you work with YouTubers as sort of a middleman between the brands, like the typical YouTube sponsorship brands, Raid, NordVPN, Keeps, Manscaped, and you basically represent YouTubers and offer us as clients to work with the brands.
Yeah, so I kind of realized back in the day, we started the business in 2019. I had thoughts of doing it for a while, because I didn't like, the other people in the space were terrible, and they were scammers taking 50% off the top of brand deals without telling creators, and they just weren't good at their job. They weren't getting a lot of offers for people. So we jumped into the space and just started going to YouTubers, letting them know, hey, you're getting ripped off. Like, what cut are these people taking off this brand deal? I don't know. I didn't ask. Well, they're taking 50%, like half of the money, and they're like, oh, I didn't know that. And I'm like, I'll do it, and sign on with us. We'll just take 20%. And they're like, okay. And then we just kind of grew from there. It's been a very interesting space. Definitely a lot more competition now than 3 years ago. It's really just grown around us in a lot of ways. Always looking for ways to expand, though, in terms of different opportunities for creators.
Yeah, I remember you were one of the first YouTubers to have consistent sponsorship integrations in your videos. Back when Honey still did YouTube a lot. Back when Loot Crate was still in business.
Loot Crate and Audible and Dollar Shave Club. Those were like the OG YouTube sponsors.
Right. Dollar Shave Club was my very first sponsor.
Yeah, they're not even around like doing sponsorships anymore.
No, they've moved up to.
What happens with a lot of these companies is they'll come in, they're in a growth phase, they want to grow so they can sell it to a big conglomerate. So then they'll just dump a ton of money into YouTube sponsorships, and then they get a buyer for $500 million or something ridiculous. They sell, and then you just never hear from them again in terms of sponsored integrations, because they kind of like hit their limit of potential growth for the space.
They got through that phase of fundraising or whatever stage they're at in the venture process.
Yeah, they do a round of venture capital funding that all of it goes towards advertising, and then they say, hey, we have $1 million a month here. We're just spending it on TV ads, Instagram ads, and our job is to try to say, hey, maybe you could do some YouTube sponsored messages too. And oftentimes they'll be like, oh, we didn't think of that, but sure.
Right. It is worth noting that even though YouTube ads have probably been around since 2015 or so, in terms of specifically in the industry, they're called like integrations.
Yeah.
Yes. It's still, I'd say it's still in the infancy of like what's possible, because there's not a big pool of companies that actually advertise on YouTube. I think they're still testing the process now to see if the return on investment is effective. If you ask me, it appears to be effective for these companies. I've seen so many companies, they start off as like YouTube guys, and then 2 years later I see them on national TV. Like they've scaled effectively.
It really depends on what your channel is. If you run a van life channel, you could get brand deals all day long. If you run a fitness channel, get a sponsorship on every single video, no questions asked. Because a lot of these channels, what happened is they just kept on getting sponsorship opportunities, and then they start jacking up their rates to charge insane, like $80 CPMs to sponsor a channel. So if you come in and you're able to offer a more affordable price point and you run that type of content that they're looking for, you'll get booked every day of the week. I think the difficulty is there's some niches such as ours where our audiences are men in their 20s, and not a lot of companies that have products for men in their 20s are out there spending money on sponsorships right now.
Right.
So we're kind of left with this remnant inventory where sometimes it's difficult to get sponsors for people like me, you, or Turkey Tom. Because a lot of it is just, it doesn't even matter about conversion to them per se. At the end of the day, they do care about conversion for sponsored messages, but they want to feel good about it. So that's why they always come to us. Oh, we want van life channels. Okay, we could do a van life channel, and it will be $50,000. Or you could get Lemon, and it's the same exact type of content, but it's a fraction of the price. And then they're like, okay, I guess we'll do Lemon then. Like, if they're smart about it.
Yeah, I'm the fucking sloppy seconds.
We're all sloppy seconds in this space.
Do you see a future where, like, McDonald's or someone is frequently doing YouTuber integrations? I know, like, Mr. Beast has, like, Coca-Cola sponsorships already, but, like, he's like the absolute cream of the crop, most valuable person to advertise on the entire website. I'm talking about for, like, standard intermediate channels such as myself and yours.
I could say that we're working on it. The interesting thing about whenever you see like a random brand come in oftentimes and they just do like one sponsorship with Mr. Beast or Casey Neistat, usually what's behind that is like the CEO of the company, their kid is like, you should sponsor my favorite YouTuber. Like, he's really good. And the CEO...
That's literally what it takes.
Then the CEO talks to the advertising department like, what's this Mr. Beast fellow? Let's sponsor him. Then they're like, okay, yes, sir. And then they just do it. And then it ends there. We've been trying to pitch it in terms of a way to get them to just more regularly advertise on people like me and you. It's just an uphill battle because these people's advertising departments have been around for 100 years, and a lot of the times they're afraid to rock the boat, get backlash.
A lot of old thinking, old traditional
thinking,
ways.
Definitely. It's also more risky because you don't know what kind of content you're putting it on. If you put it on Casey Neistat or Mr. Beast, it's a pretty safe bet. Whereas, if you're just sponsoring 100 different YouTubers, might be more difficult. That's why the space is so reliant on conversion rates of click the link in the description, use my promo code, because they could really track it. And the companies that do a lot of sponsorships right now, they care about the conversions. Whereas with Coca-Cola, when they do a brand deal, they don't really care about direct conversions per se.
They just want brand recognition.
They want brand recognition. People already buy Coke. They just need to keep it in the public consciousness.
Yes.
If you will. So yeah, it's harder to break into those places. We have tried with a limited amount of success so far, but I think one of these days they'll figure out.
As time goes on, marketing departments, younger people are going to phase in, people who understand the effectiveness of YouTube, how compelling YouTube videos can be with engagement and specifically cultivation of fan bases. I think that is where the premium value is with sponsoring a YouTuber versus sponsoring just like running ads on a television spot.
Yeah, well, the television spot's easy because you make your 30-second spot and then you just fill it up. Like, oh, Jerry Springer's playing a rerun. Okay, just fill it in, get a really cheap price. I've talked to people that do that. With the YouTuber sponsored messages, it's a little bit more difficult because you have to, each one's different, so you have to keep on reviewing them, and it's a little bit more of an in-depth process. But not really though, because you don't have to make a commercial in the first place, so that's a cost that doesn't even have to be put into it because
that's unloaded onto the YouTuber. That effort and expense.
I always pitch this to brands, and most people don't appreciate it. Is you're just paying for the you're just paying for the audience. The YouTuber is putting in a brand endorsement and a custom commercial for free. Yeah. If you pay for his audience, they'll do that stuff just on the top. Mm-hmm. I think that's a good selling point.
I think it's underutilized.
It's underutilized.
Definitely.
Well, and that's why a lot of people, and we've been looking into this recently, is why wait for these companies? Just create brands from scratch. Like, if a creator has their own in-house company, they never have to worry about a brand deal again. We work a lot with Oompaville, who is working on his candy machine to make Sour Boys candy in-house. Once this machine's finished, he basically told me, I don't want to do sponsorships for anyone else. I'm just going to promote my candy. And then you build that company up. What's better, you getting paid $5,000 one time, or just keep on promoting something?
You're building a
company that will be
media
worth
empire that you have equity in.
Yeah, so either you get paid $5,000 a pop, or you just promote your own company that you make, and you grow that to being worth $50 million. That's a better deal. It's a lot more upfront. Difficulties.
It cuts out the middleman, basically.
You're cutting out the middleman. Well, the problem is...
Well, like, you are the middleman now, but you are becoming the main business that is being sold. That's the thing.
Yeah, well, a lot of the YouTubers, they just don't want... that we work with, they don't want to deal with it. Like, they don't want to deal with negotiations. They don't want to deal with scammers. You see all these...
Obviously.
You see all these YouTubers that talk about, we responded to an email for a sponsorship and our channel was hacked.
Right.
NanoZebra, I trained all of my employees to know, like, spot those emails. Hey, be really careful clicking links. The YouTuber, even if they do click the link, they will not be logged into the YouTuber's account because we don't have access to our YouTuber's account.
Right.
If you let my company handle the sponsorships for you, you don't have to worry about that. That's not a risk you have to take. We go through all of them. We know which brands are scams, which ones are real, which ones pay well, which ones don't, which ones have good contract terms, which ones don't. We put it all in a calendar for you. We give you a brand deal coordinator, and we take a low fee. I think it's a pretty reasonable amount that pays for itself.
Well, it's like agency fees, 10 to 20%, basically.
Yeah, we take 20% for our creators, but we only do the sponsored messages. A lot of the ones that take less than that, either they're offering a subpar product and they're like kind of jokesters and they're just trying to undercut the competition, or they're trying to take like a fee off everything where they want to cut of your AdSense and your Patreon money and your merch sales.
Yeah.
Whereas we're just really hyper fixated right now on the sponsored messages. We are expanding into offering merch to some people and possibly bringing some companies from scratch into creation and letting some YouTubers pay in to be a partner of the business with the agreement that they'll like promote it on their channel as well and be a founder of it. So we are like looking into other stuff, but at the end of the day, the bread and butter is just, we'll do sponsored messages. We'll take the cut off that. If you want us to do something else for you, that could be talked about later. But I think most of the people that work with us, they end up spending less time and making more money just working with us if they try to handle it themselves.
And speaking specifically as one of your clients, I will say I've worked with other ad companies before. You guys really do like try to go out and do right by the clients, which is nice. This is not a sponsorship for NanoZebra or whatever, but like I've been pleased thus far with working with you guys, and I can definitely tell you guys put in that effort to like really just go out there and like try to make stuff work, and I've appreciated that through the years.
I'm glad you've had a good experience. We're not perfect. We've had our growing pains, but at the end of the day, whenever there is a problem, all the YouTubers that are with us, they could come to me directly. They have my Discord, they have my phone number, and say, hey, I'm not happy with the service, and I've stepped in and like made things right. I've taken over, accounts just like in the time being to make sure that they were done correctly. I'll jump in and work overtime to make sure that people are treated correctly.
Right.
And I think that's something that I'm the only agency that's primarily run by a creator. There is another one that there is a YouTuber that owns like a little piece of it, but as far as I know, I'm the only the creator one that's like creator operated.
That's a lot of value for me,
Yeah.
because you have this empathy of knowing what it's like to be the presenter of the ad and the I guess the negotiator, where I think a lot of these companies have appeared over the years where they try to sell ads. They get like one big contract with Raid or something and just send out mass emails. Any of you YouTubers out there, if you have like even an intermediate sized channel, you will have seen these emails saying like, ooh, paid promotion from so-and-so pop into your business email. And a lot of these guys, they're just like venture companies by like just random CEO type people from Silicon Valley, tech industry, whatever. It is, the trust factor is a lot higher because you are like a YouTuber with a public channel and a public presence.
Yeah, if I
where-
screw over a YouTuber, that ruins my other job, which is being a YouTuber myself.
Yeah, any random venture capitalist can just disappear, and it doesn't matter for them like what their reputation is. But for you have something to lose if there's a big problem with how you're handling the company. So that's good leverage to have and to know.
Yeah, I think it's useful. I think that it is definitely a big plus if you work with companies in the YouTube space that actually have YouTubers that are behind them. Whenever you have a company where like it's in the YouTuber space, but the guy that created it is not a YouTuber himself, like not all of them are bad. There's legitimate people, don't get me wrong, but I think there is a bit more of a risk there because they aren't really attached to the space and they could just, scam some people, go off in the sunset, never to be heard of again.
Yeah.
I could assure you I've been on YouTube for 14 years. I'm here to stay. I don't want to do anything that's going to ruin my reputation. And there's been points where, I fired an employee because like they weren't treating the creators right. And like I stepped up and like was doing work in the meantime until we found someone else for the job that did do it correctly. It's just what you have to do. It's kind of stressful. I basically have 2 jobs that I juggle now, but it's fulfilling.
What's interesting to me is sort of the culture that has developed on YouTube around ads, because if you ask a lot of viewers, these ads are very unpopular. Mostly because, as we've been alluding to earlier in this 18 to 36 male demographic, advertising is very underrepresented on YouTube, which means there are these same few companies that try to advertise on everyone. If you're in this demographic, you watch all the same channels, so you see all the same ads appearing on the videos. I just wanted to mention that because I just from a viewer perspective, I understand the frustration at times with like constantly seeing all the same ads on the same people. It gets repetitive and a lot of people get frustrated and annoyed by that. But I always say that like I started taking on these ads after the adpocalypse on YouTube where Google AdSense revenue took a huge hit. This was a necessity at a point for like so many people to sustain themselves. And I'm just saying advertising is pretty much in everything else. I've made this video before on like the ad block video elsewhere on this channel, but there is really, really limited other ways in actually funding the creation of independent content.
Yeah, I mean, once you get to a point, and we're at this, we're getting there now, is, creators now have enough money where they've stored it away, they've been successful for enough time, where they could come in and create their own business from scratch, hire on someone with some success in like another industry, start something with YouTuber backing. I think that's the next phase that's going to make a lot of people extremely wealthy. I think there's going to be a lot of YouTuber billionaires coming up in the next few years from that route. Mr. Beast is already there. I believe that there might be like a makeup channel that has like a makeup line that's doing really well, that's close. But yeah, there's the sponsored messages. It's just a very convenient way to make some reliable money and fight against just being at the whim of AdSense.
Yeah, there are people out there who like call it greedy of YouTubers to take the ads. The YouTuber wealth is vastly overestimated for the average YouTubers like you and I, in my opinion.
I mean, it depends. I don't think anyone really has a gauge on what YouTubers make because it's all over the place. Some people spend their money better than others. Like some people will hire employees and have to pay them, and then they're just trying to grow it, and they only make $50,000 a year, and like the $250,000 just goes to hiring a staff of people to get it to the next level. But like it might pay off later on. It's very difficult. When I get a little bit of information about a YouTuber, though, I can kind of get a feel for how they're doing in terms of revenue.
I'm just interested in kind of dispelling this idea that like sponsored messages and videos kind of reflect poorly on the YouTuber. I think that's just like an unfair way to look at things, because I'm someone 2018, 2017, I made like dozens of videos complaining about YouTube, complaining about how the site was administered. Like, wouldn't it be a little bit hypocritical of me to like complain about how the ad system is so broken, but to just like turn down these opportunities to continue making content from this alternative income route?
Yeah, that was the interesting thing is these people would complain about it because I remember I got the most hate when I covered, like, it's kind of, true crime has kind of normalized it a bit more, but back in the day I'd cover someone that died and then I'd put a sponsored message on it, and I put a sponsored message on it because I had a writer and editor I had to pay, and they're like, oh, you're a scumbag for putting a sponsorship on that. And I'd always say to them, like, should I just pay my writer and editor out of pocket and work for free?
Yeah.
Like you don't expect this from like CNN.
Yeah. Why does Dateline NBC have different standards? They run ads on their programming.
Well, and
why can't YouTubers?
You'd bring that up to them and they'd have no answer back, but they'd still be mad. Like it didn't matter. Now people are used to it. It's been enough years past. The true crime channels kind of made it more mainstream, and you're able to monetize it and no one really cares. But even now, there's times where, like, I covered Etika, and I had a sponsored message on the video, and it was like, I don't know, some mobile app, and I realized, like, I'm gonna get hate for this, and okay, let me just donate the money to charity, and I did, to some mental health awareness organization, the money from the sponsored message. But at the end of the day, I did it because, okay, you know, I'm doing well for myself, I should donate some money, but I decided to do it there because, you know, people would be irrationally upset about it, even though I don't think that there was anything morally
even
wrong
though
with
this has
putting
been
a
just an
sponsorship.
accepted industry standard in television for ages.
And if I did that for another YouTuber that died, it wouldn't get any hate. But since people love Etika so much, like, it was a different standard for him being covered than other people that have died. So it's kind of messed up on their part that they wouldn't care if I put the brand deal on a video about another person that passed away. But since it was Etika's special, he gets a different, like, level of respect than everyone else.
Yeah, my stance is, like, if you enjoy a YouTuber and you can acknowledge you enjoy the content and that the content provides value to you, like, the content has to be sustained. If a content provides a net positive to your life, something has to keep the YouTuber interested in doing that, and people can't just work for free in perpetuity. That's the thing. It's not greedy to expect to be compensated for your labor, because YouTube is a very real industry now. I think people still have the feeling that most people on YouTube, like, ought to be still intrinsically motivated by just having fun, and that's a great way to get into it when you're just starting a channel.
You need to, because you're not going to make money.
It's so time consuming that it's going to jeopardize your opportunities at other work if you want to take it seriously. It's not some frivolous thing.
I kind of feel like that mindset's, I don't see it that often anymore. Maybe you do. I think that was really common 5 years ago.
That's what people use to justify saying, like, oh, screw this YouTuber for taking on an ad, a sponsorship they sold out.
Yeah, at the end of the day, I was always just about self-survival, and what am I going to do? Like, be broke and destitute to get the approval of some loser in the comments section? Like, it just never even was a consideration for me. I was like, I'm going to take this brand deal because I need to make money this month. Like, I have expenses. I want to, you know, keep this up. So, yeah, I think that's mostly gone away. Although there is I feel there's a charm and there's almost a nostalgia now for the old days of YouTube when it was just, you're a guy sitting in your basement in front of a camera, like, and just working by yourself, no team.
That's how it began for you.
That was how it began for me, definitely. And I look back on that era fondly in some ways. It probably wasn't the healthiest way to have a teenage, upbringing. It's so bizarre looking back. It's just, I sat in the basement. All I thought about all day was YouTube. I did the bare minimum at school, and then I went home and, like, just watched YouTube and made YouTube videos, and watched Mad Men, and, like, kind of lived vicariously through Donald Draper almost, in terms of, like, I thought it was so cool. Like, man, I wish I was, like, in the 60s wearing really cool suits, going to an office where I have, like, you know, just drink all day long. I don't even drink alcohol, but, like, just the concept of, like, sipping some scotch during the work day, just looking really cool. I don't know, it was definitely really appealing to me.
Well, look, after it was all said and done, I'd say you turned out pretty well.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah.
I'm doing all right. Still growing. Still got things to work on. Well, now I'm at the point where it's so bizarre, maybe you could relate to this. Back when the apocalypse happened, it felt like there was no opportunity, and now I feel that there's, like,
almost too much opportunity.
There's too much opportunity.
Yeah.
I have to say no to things now. I can't help myself because I'll say yes to things because I'm excited, and then after the fact, it's like, damn, I don't have enough hours in the day to work on all these things that I agreed to do.
YouTube is growing, and you're definitely there for a lot of it. And hopefully, the audience of the Downward Diary, the Downward Drive, can grow as well. I think that's going to about do it for this episode. This has been the Gamer from Mars. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you enjoyed the insight that he has to offer. And hopefully you'll tune in to the next one where we will have even more guests.